John Lynch addresses the media at the NFL Scouting Combine. An old friend is back, and we're doing the old song and dance like every offseason with Trent Williams. Rob Stats Guerrera and I will break all that down and more right after this. I'm Jason Aponte. That's Rob Stats Guerrera. This is the Bully Ball Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, the only 49ers podcast that will not podcast under the franchise tag. Rob, good to see you, buddy.
Jay, good to see you. Glad you're back in the saddle. We got news today. It's coming fast and furious out of Indianapolis.
You know, I have to say, 4 letters come to mind right now watching everything at the Combine. It's FOMO. This is my favorite event in the world. I should have been there today. I should have been there asking John Lynch questions, but I wanted to update some people real quick with why you see me in and out of the pod, why I haven't been streaming as much, why I haven't been as active on social media. So for a lot of you that know, I've been dealing with a back issue. The back issue has subsided, but now I've lost the ability to walk, which would make it impossible to be at the NFL Scouting Combine. I can move around very gingerly around the house. As you know, I have 2 little ones, so that makes it difficult. But, I'm starting physical therapy and I have a positive mind frame and, I'm going to be fine. But I just wanted to update people as to why you don't see me there at the Combine and what's been going on with me and the lack of content and why you see me popping in and out of the pod. But I'm going to be fine. As long as I keep a positive mindset and I keep working hard with my physical therapist, I'm going to get there. Good thing this is happening in the off season, Rob.
First of all, horrible news to hear, but I know you're working hard to get back, and we appreciate you wanting to do shows while you do that, man. Obviously, you have bigger things going on, and so we appreciate any time you can hop back in here.
Hey, listen, I'm just happy we have things to talk about. And I wanted to point something out because there was something that you had done with Dieter. Big fan of Dieter Kurtenbach, by the way. Does great work. You guys should subscribe to his channel with Hutch, become a sicko of their channel. About the idea that John Lynch might be stepping back from a general manager role and having someone else step in. And the Minnesota Vikings let go of Kwesi in the most odd way, by the way. In the most odd way. I want to make sure that we say this as well, too. Regardless of the job that you think that he did in Minnesota, sending Kwesi to the Senior Bowl and then firing him at the Senior Bowl with no plan and then having an interim GM while you're saying we're going to run this draft and then bring in a general manager. You want to talk about dysfunction. The Minnesota Vikings are operating at a level of dysfunction I don't think I've ever seen, and that's because I'm your resident Vikings expert, right? But Kwesi's back in the fold, right? And Rob, I want to start with this. This regime, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, whether it's front office, it's like that Seinfeld when George Costanza has the picture of the beautiful woman and he can keep going to talk to the models, his hand stamped. He can come in and out of the club because they just know who he is. That's it. It's a revolving door. Once you're in, you get a stamp on your hand. You can go, you can come back, and we'll always want you back. But Dieter was alluding to the fact that maybe general manager John Lynch gets promoted and someone else takes it over. Do you think that Kwesi is that?
Well, look, the 49ers organization is very cognizant of John Lynch. They like him. They don't want it to look like he was demoted, right? They don't want to make it look like he was fired. That's not what they're trying to do. And I think they still want John Lynch as a part of their organization. He's the Kyle Shanahan buffer. When Kyle goes around all week and he's grumpy and mad, and John Lynch is smoothing it out with guys. When Kyle tears into people, John Lynch is the one that kind of, smooths everything out. There's a role for him here. But I also think that Kyle knows now, like I talked about when Dieter was on, like it's hard to do both jobs. It's hard to be a head coach and a GM. There's a reason most teams have 2 separate people doing those jobs. I think Kyle has sort of realized that. And I think also, given the drafts that they've had recently, they realize that they can change some things in that area. And so they bring in someone that has experience in that role, someone that they know, because this organization is very insular. They're very insulated. They like people in their bubble. Kwesi obviously was with the 49ers before. So they bring in another voice that they can add that can do most of that full-time stuff that has actual GM experience, which even though John Lynch has been the GM for almost a decade now, he doesn't have that background. So I think that's what they're thinking is they haven't even said what his official title is yet. I think what will happen is they will come up with some sort of nebulous thing for a little while. And then later, when people have sort of forgotten all this and they're used to Kwesi with the 49ers, they will quietly adjust all the titles. And Kwesi will be the one that is primarily doing a lot of the GM stuff, even though Kyle ultimately has the loudest voice in the room.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people forget that this is a group effort. Although Adam Peters, his PR team is the greatest in the world because every single good pick was Adam Peters and every bad pick was Lynch and every bad pick was Kyle and every wide receiver pick was Kyle. But there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And there's no one, there is one voice that goes over it, right? When Kyle wants something, Kyle will get it, okay? Right? And I think that's fair because if you're turning this over to the guy with the master plan, with the scheme, you want him to handpick the guys on offense, right? And put them together on the field, right? Okay. But I would say this. I think this is, one, them doing their friend a solid, by the way. Just them, again, keeping friends employed. The boys club continues. If you've been here, it's like cheers. Everybody knows your name. You can come on back and, and no one's the wiser. But I would think that if there was any sort of move to make Kwesi the full-time GM, I would be very hesitant about that. And the reason that I would say that I'm hesitant about that is because his drafts in Minnesota have not been good. And that's me being nice. And look, the 49ers, they have done a phenomenal job of promoting people from within the organization, whether it's, from the coaching ranks or front offices or, getting them jobs other places. Everybody wants to steal a little bit of the sauce of the 49ers. I want to make sure that we say that as well, too. For everybody that says, oh, the 49ers are so, hey, they're so mismanaged or people don't want to beat them, then why is everybody always trying to pluck anybody who's been in an elevator with the 49ers or even worked or rubbed shoulders with this regime? But Rob, I wanted you to pull up the drafts that Kwesi was involved with. This does include JJ McCarthy, by the way, which I don't know how much Kevin O'Connell has to do with it, but we're going to go through them, okay? So we've got the first one up here, 2022. Lewis Seen is not in the league anymore. Andrew Booth, Ed Ingram. That's not a good draft. Jalen Nailor is the only one who's a real contributor in that first draft in 2022, and he might be the reason that the Vikings are moving on from Jordan Addison. That's a bad draft. That's one bad draft right there, Rob. That's not a good draft.
Not great. Not gonna lie. But look, first draft, inexperience. Okay, let's. How did he do in 2023?
Let's see. Jordan Addison, good pick. I would have done that as well too. Nobody would have known that he was going to be, a headache. But it was the right pick. He was a great receiver in USC. I think he's a great receiver now. Mekhi Blackman, Jay Ward, Jaron Hall. Okay. Not great. Let's keep going. All right. JJ McCarthy. They're literally going to bring in one or two quarterbacks. That just go to show you right there, like what they think of McCarthy off the bat right there. Dallas Turner's a fine football player, I think. That one they might have hit out of the park. I think he's very good. Will Riker's somebody who's a kicker. They took in the 6th round. This doesn't look good either. Kyrie Jackson didn't play one snap in the NFL. One snap. That's 2025. Let's move on.
That was 2024. This is 2024.
2025. Donovan Jackson. He's pretty good. He's fine. Ty Felton, Ty Ingram Dawkins, Kobe King, Gabbett, blah. Rob, these are awful drafts. Horrific drafts. And Kwesi oversaw all of them. So the idea that this is something that's like this slam dunk, like, hey, we'll move it over to Kwesi, I would be very scared if that was the idea. Although knowing, and you and I talked about this, Kwesi wouldn't be the one who is just pushing the button on everybody else. But that's not good, Rob. None of those are good. Justin Jefferson was already there. He didn't draft him. Oh, boy. Those are some bad drafts.
I'm going to say this fully acknowledging that maybe this is pure copium from me. I'm going to
Okay.
put that out on the front. But this is the thing that I like about this move
Mhm.
is that he has general manager experience.
He does.
Kyle, I think, makes general manager decisions with the brain of a coach, right? Oh, I gotta have Brandon Ayuk, even though he's told us 6 different times he wants to stay, and then he doesn't want to stay, and then he wants to stay. I gotta have him because I need him, and we're going to make a Super Bowl, and we need him. And so, okay, now he says he wants to stay, so I'm going to run up the stairs and tell John Lynch, don't trade him because we gotta have him. Like the guy was clearly never bought in. I feel like a real general manager would look at Brandon Ayuk as more of, hey, this is one asset we have at our disposal that we can acquire other assets for and kind of see the bigger picture. And it doesn't mean that he's always going to get his way, but I like that that perspective is in the building, that someone says, Kyle, hold on. Let's just think about this a different way. For example, with Mac Jones, right? Kyle doesn't want to trade Mac Jones. Hey, we could win 10 games with Mac Jones. I got to have him. What if Brock gets hurt again? I feel like someone needs to tell Kyle, like, hey, dude, you're a really good coach. We think you could get the production out of someone else that you got out of Mac Jones. And he's an
Curtis
asset.
Rourke.
Right. And the market is begging for a quarterback trade, particularly maybe with Quessie's old team. For
Minnesota.
So we want this asset. We're going to use one asset we have, which is your ability to coach up quarterbacks. And we're going to trade this other asset. And that's going to give us more draft picks or another player, whatever they get back. But that's going to give us something in return because it doesn't make sense to have this guy potentially sit on the bench for the entire season for nothing. So we need to think about it in this way. Don't think like I got to have Mac Jones, number 10, that actual guy. You need that level of production and you can get that elsewhere. And I hope that that is the perspective that he brings. And maybe that's copium, but I hope that's what Quessy will do for this team.
I think Quessy should be in charge of locking Kyle in a room away when the third round starts. Like when the third round starts, they'll be like, "Hey, Kyle, step into this room. We need to talk." And they just like kick him in and just close the door and they just put like a chair in front of it and that's it. And they're like, "All right, guys, we don't have to draft a running back. Let's go get a player." Look, I think it's always been a collective effort. We've never known for sure who. Oh, that's right. That is true.
Yeah, I'm just seeing that comment about Kyrie Jackson.
Yeah,
we should.
Yeah,
point that out.
That's right. I apologize. Yeah, I apologize for that. I completely forgot about that. That's absolutely true.
So did I. I forget what happened.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Absolutely.
Oh, it was a traffic accident. Yeah, he died in a car accident. So that would obviously explain why his NFL career did not.
Yeah. Right. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's a big mistake on my part. Completely apologize and an oversight. But there's just so many cooks in the kitchen, and we just don't know who's been attributed to what, right? Like there's still a narrative out there that Kyle wanted Mac Jones and Adam Peters was like, "Nah, we're taking Trey Lance." How do you operate with this function in your mind that Kyle is the guy who was actually trying to get his guy, and he walked in the room and said, "I wanted Mac," and they were like, "Nope, we're taking Trey Lance, buddy. Sorry." Like what are we doing? Like, again, we have to know the way this works, and it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, right? With the John Lynch thing, he is very much a buffer for the media, 100%. And I think that is very fair, and I think he does a great job of that as well, too. Right? It must be exhausting to go up there. And you can tell that he's exhausted doing it because he uses the same 4 or 5 phrases over and over, right? We get word salads and nothing burgers and everything, from him. He's really good at those things and giving us empty calorie answers at times. Sometimes he does divulge a little bit more, but then you see him walk it back. Like Rob was the first one to just be like he's touching himself a little bit too much on his head. But I think this Quessy thing, I don't think that we should just look at it and say, hey, this is a 1-for-1 shot. I don't think the 49ers are just going to say, hey, this is what's going to happen. I think it's something similar to the Saleh and Gus Bradley thing, right? We have Saleh, then we have Gus Bradley, just in case something happens, and then we can always fall back to Gus Bradley. But then Raheem Morris comes available, and forget it. Like we're not even running with that. So you have to show yourself adaptable. I don't think that they have that in mind, but I do think that they're casting themselves a bit of a safety net by keeping guys who are familiar with the operation and guys that they trust.
I just want to point this out for people that maybe doubt what I'm saying a little bit. Nick Wagoner had the tweet. John Lynch says Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is back into the fold in the personnel department. He's already around and will get finality in terms of title, etc. after the draft. If you don't think they I should say it this way. They already know exactly what his title is going to be. You think he's taking the
For
job if
sure.
he doesn't know the title? Would you get hired if a company is like, hey, you want to come work for us? Okay, yeah, great. We'll figure out everything you're going to do and what your title is going to be later. Just come work for us. Come give us your labor and we'll figure all that stuff out. That's not, no. They know exactly what he's going to be. He's not agreeing to work with them unless all that stuff is hammered out. So I'm not buying that like, oh, we're going to figure it out all later. No, 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 no. They already know everything. It's all going to be PR in terms of how they announce it and when and what changes, down the line. I think that Kwesi is going to be a buffer between Lynch and Shanahan, and he's going to have a lot of the typical GM stuff. Like next year at the Combine, Kwesi will be the guy representing the 49ers. John Lynch may go, he may not, but Kwesi will be the guy at the podium.
I think that we'll forget about this in about a week or so when free agency starts. Like everyone's just going to completely forget that he was there. He's there. He's doing anything. What his role is. Like I really don't think that it's that. I'd be shocked, from what you said. If next year at the combine, when I'm there and I go to the scrum and it's Kwesi and it's not Lynch or someone different. I'd be really shocked if it was Kwesi. I'd also be a little bit alarmed because I don't like his drafts in Minnesota. Obviously, they didn't either. Now, again, they are dysfunctional, and there's no reason for you to send Kwesi to the Senior Bowl, have him start scouting, and then tell him on the second day of the Senior Bowl, "Hey, you're fired." I wrote an article for that site, and because I don't have to have a filter when it comes to the Vikings, or I don't have to really. I don't have to play politics with trying to figure out what I should say, how I should phrase it. I literally wrote an article that said, "What the hell are they doing over there, man?" And the whole article was just like, "This is ridiculous. Like what type of this is Jets level dysfunction." And then the interim guy, and then this is how you know the Vikings are operating on a dysfunctional level. Kevin O'Connell and the interim GM declined. They're not speaking at the combine. They're not speaking to anybody. You know why? They don't want to answer questions about what the hell they're doing. They don't want to answer questions about J.J. McCarthy. They don't want to answer questions. It's only going to get worse. The Vikings are, and oh my God. And then on top of all that, Sam Darnold just won a Super Bowl, and you let him roll. And they don't want to answer any of those questions. The Vikings are an absolute, for lack of a better term, shit show. But that doesn't mean that Kwesi deserved to stay. They just did it in a different way. Elevate and Accumulate HQ. Off topic on your back problems. YouTube, Jeff Cavalier, herniated disc. PT doesn't work. Love what y'all doing. Bang, bang. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I will check that out. Definitely. I'm exhausting all right now. Like I'm consulting with a voodoo doctor as well too. Like everything is on the table. So
Jay, you are kind of breaking up a little bit. Do you want to pop out of the studio and pop back in, and then I'll do the sleeper read while you're gone?
Got it.
Jay's going to hop out. In the meantime, just want to remind everybody, check out Sleeper, download the app. You can have a really good time. You'll get a free $20 entry just for signing up. Please go and do it. I've been telling you about it all year. Even though football is gone, they have every sport. You can make picks for basketball. Baseball is going to be starting up soon. Hockey, once they get back over the Olympic break. Go check it out. And if you like what you see, and you want to deposit money, use our code GSP. You get a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Please go and do that. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. So check out Sleeper today. It's super easy. You just pick higher or lower on different statistical categories. And if you get your picks right, you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So whatever you want to pick, whatever sport, plenty of options there for you. It was great for football. It can be great for other sports too. Please go and check that out today. All right. I think Jay is back. Jay is back, but I don't. Oh, there you are. All right. Welcome, sir. Perfect timing.
Is that better?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, man, I had such a good sleeper line lined up, for the read and everything. So that's all right. It's cool. All right. Well, where would we be with a 49ers offseason without a contract dispute? And Trent Williams is a smart man, and for a few reasons. One, he knows that he's so good. He knows that the 49ers need him. He knows that the 49ers have nobody to replace him. And he knows that someone else will pay him if the 49ers don't. So every year that he gets a chance, something pops up. I was shocked to see this. Or maybe I was, just because Adam Schefter, let me tell you something, man. You are the shill of the agents. The absolute shill of agents. The fact that this came out about 90 minutes before John Lynch had to speak, have some shame. Have some damn shame. Or at least try to have framed it and put it out earlier. But the fact that they gave it to you and they were like, now put it out because he's about to go speak. And you were like, yeah, sure. No. Just remember that when Adam Schefter says something, I'm not saying that it's not true, but just remember, you got to consider where it's coming from. So
yes.
Trent Williams and his agent, they know what's going on. This reminds me of, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 years ago when you remember when Jalen Carter was, he had that issue at Georgia where, he had the hit and run and there was someone who passed away, unfortunately, or it wasn't a hit and run. They were speed racing and everything. Okay. Before he's about to go to the podium, Adam Schefter drops, hey, Jalen Carter had a warrant out for his arrest. And we, the entire media room in the combine, we run downstairs to his podium. We weren't going to go down there because we knew the 49ers were, had no shot, and a bunch of other teams knew that they had no shot. But it's just funny. I just want you to look at the timing of these things, and I want you to remember, that Adam Schefter and all these guys, they work for the agents. They work for the other people. Like, they're doing the dirty work. So that's why when we say sometimes the 49ers are negotiating through the media, the agents do the same thing. And they knew they had this leverage. But Rob, Trent Williams just wants another bag, man. And I don't blame him because he's a top 2 tackle in the NFL still at his age. He played very well. He knows exactly what he's doing. I can't say that I wouldn't do it. And here we are. I mean, let's do it, man. What else can we go through in the offseason that will surprise you? I'm not shocked at this at all.
So this is clearly coming from Trent's side. Just the wording of the tweet. Shefty says they're trying to, renegotiate the contract. If the two sides can't bridge their differences in this standoff, Williams would be expected to join this year's free agent class, making him one of the premier players available. First of all, expected by who? Okay, I just want to lay this out there because I feel like there's a lot of confusion about the situation. The 49ers are not going to just cut Trent Williams. There is no universe where that is going to happen for a very clear reason. They want to get something for him. And whether they cut him or whether they trade him, they still take a $34 million cap hit. You can see it on the screen right now. If they cut him pre-June 1st, $34 million cap hit. If they trade him pre-June 1st, same exact cap hit. Now, you could say, well, what about a post-June 1 cut? That would lower the, if I could actually, post-June cut. That lowers the cap hit for next year, but it's the same amount. They don't save any money. They just spread that $34 million out over multiple seasons. So that money has to be accounted for on the salary cap. So the 49ers are not just going to cut Trent Williams and say, oh, darn. Oh, now we need a left tackle now really bad because we have nobody else on the roster. That is not happening, okay? So maybe if they can't work it out, they're going to trade him. Now, I personally think they're going to work it out. Lynch afterwards said he's very confident in the way things are going because I don't know if people know this. There's 2 media sessions at the Combine. There's the one that happens at the podium, and then that happens with like everyone that's in Indianapolis. And a lot of times that includes national people. It includes local people from other teams that want to ask
podcasters.
Right. Those loser podcasters that go, no, I'm just kidding. But then afterwards, when the person gets off the podium, usually it's the local media that are right there in a little scrum. And then that coach or GM does a little session with just those people. And Lynch said in that little second media session, he's very confident about Trent Williams. I think this is going to be a nothing burger. They're going to give him more money and it's going to be fine. But Schefter saying, oh, he's expected to be a free agent. That is garbage. That was never going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I think this is something that they'll figure out. They'll kick the can down the road. They'll put some funny money on it. They'll put some funny years on it. See, the 49ers, I think they were kind of just betting on this ending on its own volition. Like Trent just finally quits, but Trent's like, I'm still really good. I'm not quitting. Why should I quit? And 49ers are like, damn it, he is good, and we do need him, right? Because if he quits, then they don't have to worry about any of that. You know, when you retire, then all that funny money, all that stuff goes away, and you don't have to really worry about any of that stuff. But if he continues to play, then you're kicking the can down the road. You're going to keep kicking the can down the road. Yeah, Trent's going to be here. I'm not too worried about that. But it was kind of funny to just open up and the shifter bomb, and it's just like, oh, well, now we're in 49ers offseason, especially before free agency, and I wonder who else is going to leak something to him. I wouldn't be shocked if Nick Bosa saying, something to the effect of, I want more guaranteed money as well too. And yeah, this isn't the last of this, but hey, 49ers offseason's here. That's why I was so happy to like jump back in the saddle and talk with you, because now and the sleeper joke was going to be, I would have chose higher of two contract disputes this offseason. So yeah.
First of all, I got to give Levin full credit. He said in the middle of last season, Trent Williams' contract is going to be a thing in the offseason, and I totally laughed it off. I poo-pooed it. He was 100% right. I was dead wrong. Trent was laying the groundwork for this after the Colts game when the fans were chanting one more year, and he's like, I ain't going anywhere. He was telling the 49ers, you're going to have to do this again. I had heard from other people in the offseason that he wants at least one more contract. That's all this is about. But, like, again, he's expected to be released. What did the 49ers say about Mac Jones? Well, he's a good player. We just don't give away good players. They're saying that about their backup quarterback. You think they're going to let their Hall of Fame left tackle just walk out the door for nothing? No, it's never happening. This is going to get done. They'll probably give him more money. They'll kick the can down the road. People will get all bent out of shape about the cap hit or the void years when he's off the books. I don't care about that.
Which they don't really understand how that works.
The cap is going up by $1 billion every year. This team had $100 million in dead cap money last year, and they went 12-5 and won a playoff game. Stop getting your underwear in a twist over dead cap money.
Yeah, especially when you don't understand the ins and outs of it. That's why I stay away from the cap stuff. Like, I just stay away from it. I just let other people who have a better grasp on the knowledge as well to go ahead with it and let them explain it. For me, I do believe like the dead cap hit, if you're taking it on the chin, then it's good because you get rid of it and you don't have to like spread it out over time and anything like that. But I really don't understand any of that stuff, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I do. There's a lot of people that do pretend like they do, and I think that's when you're gonna get yourself in trouble. It's okay with saying I don't understand how the cap works. That's fine, because we've been trying to figure out how other teams have been able to sign all their players, and you're like, oh, is the cap real? If you're still asking if the cap is real, then you probably don't have a good grasp on it. And guilty as charged. I don't. But hey, listen, trying to be back, I'm fine with that, and I don't blame him at all. I do not. It's funny because this past year, and I saw somebody saying it's like, oh, that he doesn't want to go through the training camp stuff. He did all the training camp stuff this year. Yep. And he missed one game, which was the last game of the year after he popped his hamstring the week before. And that is insane to me that he bet on himself this year. And look what he did. He almost finished his first full season.
In a long time. By the way, Jay, we got a little breaking news on the show. Did you see this?
Nope.
Kicker update. It's not really a kicker update. It's technically a long snapper update, but David Lombardi has tweeted that the Niners have re-signed long snapper John Weeks. Step one to keep the band together on special teams together. Weeks and Thomas Morstead and Eddie Pinheiro are all free agents. Well, John Weeks is now officially back in the fold. Pop the champagne. Championship secured.
See you at SoFi.
Look, this is obviously great. Hooray. There was a report out there that the Niners have a contract offer out to Eddie Pinheiro that he doesn't want to take. He wants to explore free agency. Great. If he give him a number, if he wants it, awesome. Love to have him back. If he doesn't, do not chase him. Just sign another veteran kicker. That's it. It's not complicated.
Oh, Rob, you just made me so happy with that. And also, I swear on Jesus sandals if you franchise tag a kicker and you haven't franchise tagged a bunch of players that you should have. Oh, I will absolutely lose it. Love you, Eddie. Thank you for everything. Dinero, Pinero, we get it. But if we offer you a contract and you say, I want to get more money, bye-bye. We found you off the street. There's other kickers off the street. And it should have always been the way that you do it. So don't overplay your hand, pal. Or do, because you're a kicker and somebody else will pay you. All right.
Right.
Brandon Ayuk update. So I wrote an article today and I put it up. It was questions that I felt like I would have asked at the combine. And one of them was about Brandon Ayuk. But my Brandon Ayuk question wasn't going to be about what are you going to do, because the divorce it's final. You're just waiting for the ink to dry, right? My question to John Lynch was going to be, can you please really walk us through this timeline, because you never have. You just said that he just stopped showing up. Well, it went from Leonard Hankerson saying Brandon Ayuk's been in every single meeting and he's been just as good as a coach and he's been involved in every practice. That sounds good. Then in front of a preseason game, he's running routes. And we wondered, hey, is this even legal? Should he even be out there since he's injured, right? And then nothing. So my question to John Lynch would have been, explain the gap between he's literally been a coach, he's been here being supportive, to we have no idea where he is. And it can't just be, we don't know what happened. Nothing happened. He just made that decision. Liar. I would have had to follow. I would have been like, so you mean to tell us that nothing happened and Brendan Ayuk just decided to stop? Nothing happened? Something happened. You said something. He said something. Somebody disagreed with something. Stop lying. And that would have been the question. But the new year, it sounds like Brandon Ayuk is going to be released, but John Lynch held out hope and said that he hopes that someone will trade for him. Rob, what are the odds that somebody will trade for Brandon Ayuk and that contract, especially given the fact that he's driving fast in his car, he's ghosting organizations, he seems to have flushed away all this money, starting to put in a position where do you trust the person to make the right decisions football-wise and for your organization?
I think there's enough smoke there to where you're like, look, if he hits the free agent market, we're happy to go compete for him, but we're not going to give up anything other than money to go get this guy. I mean, he hasn't played football in a year. He's coming off a devastating knee injury. Almost all the CLs in his knee were destroyed. He didn't play a snap. He had as many snaps as Jacob Cowing last year. Okay. He's making $30 million. I don't know, as a GM, if I were a GM, I don't know that I want to give up a draft pick. If it's like a 6th round pick, maybe, but anything more than that, forget it. I'll take my chances in the free agent market. You know what? If I miss out on him, I miss out on him. It's a sad end of a sorry episode. The 49ers are acting like they have no idea what happened, like they're not guilty of anything at all, right? Like something, I agree with you. Something had to happen. Now, maybe it was a tiny little minor thing and Ayuk totally blew it out of proportion. I'm not saying that didn't happen either. But something happened, unless they were just lying the whole time about him being a coach on the field. But either way, whatever happened, the story that we have been given is not the full story.
It's like the person in the relationship that is caught cheating and then wonders why the partner is crazy. Like, oh, you're so crazy. I don't understand why you don't trust me. Something happened. So either you lied about the fact that he was there and everything was roses and then it went to hell, or you're lying about the fact that nothing happened and you're just blaming the player and saying that I don't suspect that we'll ever get an answer about this. I don't suspect that I would have gotten an answer if I would have asked that question at the combine. But that was the number one thing on my mind, was how on earth did it go from Leonard Hankerson saying he's in every meeting, he's coaching our guys, he's present at every practice, he ran routes before the Raiders preseason game when Pooney got, remember you and I were at the Mets game. He was running routes before the game, and we looked at each other and we said, is that even legal? Will the NFL fine the 49ers for that? And it goes from that to the man does not even call or come back. If you don't think that something happened, and it doesn't mean that the 49ers necessarily did anything, maybe Brandon Ayuk did something, but something happened. Don't lie to me, and don't take us for fools. Again, you don't have to tell us anything, and I don't suspect that you will, but don't lie to us and insult our intelligence either. I'm not naive enough, I'm not entitled enough to believe that I'm entitled to every single detail of things that go on behind the scenes and things that go on with players and negotiations. And I think for the most part, that stuff should be held inside because I think that is a nasty business. And the more that gets out, the more that you're trying to scare the other person. That's when Adam Schefter gets involved. But for the most part, this stinks and it stunk the entire time, and nobody's giving any straight answers for Kyle Shanahan to be like, I've never seen anything like this, man. And John Lynch would be like, well, he's just not calling us. Something happened. But it's okay if you don't want to tell us. But I definitely would have asked that question. I would have been like, can you please like at least elaborate where like what happened from this being absolutely roses to this unparalleled, unprecedented thing that you haven't seen ever in football.
There is the possibility, and Levin and I have talked about this, that they go after more of his money. There's a pathway if they want to do it. And I wonder if they said to him, look, we can go after this if you say anything about what happened or you start dropping hints on social media or do anything, we're coming for more of the money. And so maybe once he actually gets cut or traded or whatever, then afterwards, when everybody feels safe, I always say this, when people feel safe, the truth comes out. Maybe after he's on a new team, then we find out what happened with the 49ers. But I agree with you. Something changed, something occurred, and it just soured in a big way. And it really sucks because their wide receiver core is in shambles right now. And an offense with a Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey would have been freaking awesome last year. It would have been awesome to see all of them together, and we never got to.
I mean, it'll happen on one of those Twitch streams, like with Neon, who apparently, dropped that Brandon Ayuk asked him for $100,000, like how Puka went on with Aiden Ross. You'll find that out, that way. But yeah, speaking of the wide receiver room, it sounds like Juwan Jennings has been in contact with the 49ers again. It's got to be at the right price. You just cannot pay him way too much, right? But it's funny that you mentioned Jacob Cowing because John Lynch mentioned Jacob Cowing unprompted, saying we really believe in Jacob Cowing and we're looking for a jump from him. Listen, I loved him out of college. It's one of the few draft picks that I actually called. I was one in Detroit. Like, it was literally right before their pick. And I was like, I need them to double up and draft Jacob Cowing, after they took Ricky Pearsall. I believe in the player. He just can't stay healthy. But it was kind of funny that Lynch brought him up unprompted. So that definitely does mean that they are looking at Jacob Cowing. And I don't know how that makes you feel. It doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy, even if I am a big fan of the player, just because I'm one of those people that I have to see it. And you doing it in college doesn't mean anything if you haven't taken any snaps up here and then just throw you in there and say, hey, listen, this is going to be it. Same thing with Jordan Watkins. Jordan Watkins, do we even know if he's good? Like, do we know? And I don't want to rely on somebody that we're just going to watch develop, especially when his team is trying to chase what the Seattle Seahawks are building.
Well, that's what stood out to me. Not only did he unprompted say that they really like Jacob Cowing and believe in him, also unprompted, he said Jordan Watkins has to take big steps. So he's telling you they think Jordan Watkins stinks right now, which they told you last year when they elevated Malik Turner, who hadn't caught a pass since 2021 in the game, over Jordan Watkins. So that's what they're like. They think he stinks. They have no confidence in him right now. For a GM to stand at the podium of the combine unprompted and be like, hey, he's got to get a lot better. That's not a good sign. So sorry, Jordan Watkins, that stinks for you. Jacob Cowing, at least there's hope. If I don't even, does anyone know what Jacob Cowing looks like? He could be in the room right now. I wouldn't know.
Is he a person? Is he real? Does he exist? And what's funny is when we say we said that, it's like everyone's saying, well, you got to put him out there on the field to develop. No, they watch him every single day of practice. They don't believe in him. And you don't just throw somebody out there just to say, hey, get out there. Hopefully in the game, when the bullets start flying, you're better. You have to practice and put yourself in position to gain that confidence. So, I don't know, man. Jordan Watkins, you're teetering on like already. You're getting into Danny Gray territory. You're getting into like, are we ever going to see you? And I have my doubts because just in the same way that we were talking about familiarity with players and coaches and bringing back front office guys, if you don't have the trust, if you don't have Kyle Shanahan's trust, you might as well not even have a jersey. Like, and that's the problem. And you gain it in practice. You don't gain it in the game. You have to practice.
I want full disclosure. I was one of the people saying I would much rather see Jordan Watkins out on the field than Malik Turner. Everything that you're saying makes perfect sense. I still like Malik Turner. No, like, no. First of all, how could you have more confidence in Malik Turner, who literally hasn't played since 2021, than
He
this
knows
guy?
where to stand.
But Kendrick Bourne didn't know where to stand, and they were putting him out. That was my real issue. It's like, you can't be like, well, he's not ready, he doesn't know what to do. The guys they were already throwing out there didn't know what to do. So that's why I wanted to see Watkins out on the field. But clearly, he's got a lot of work to do. I think that much is clear leading up to camp.
Oh, when you're in the trust circle, you're given grace. But when you're not, you're given no grace. It's the reason that Trent Taylor is going to end up being a training camp for some reason.
Yes,
Like, what's a polar bear doing in Cincinnati? Like, I don't understand. Like, why are you here, man? Like, what are you doing here, dude? I don't understand. But yeah, the Juwan Jennings thing, the 49ers have spoken. I'll tell you, I really believe that I think that he's going to be a New Orleans Saint, maybe a Tennessee Titan. I do think he's going to move on. Someone is going to pay him. I do think the New England Patriots are another team that'll look to his physicality, because Stephon Diggs is probably not going to be there. By the way, there's been reports, even though Stephon Diggs has a lot of off the field issues, some of which I find hilarious, some of which I find not at all hilarious and terrible. The 49ers might be interested in bringing in Diggs, as a veteran. I just don't know with the off the field stuff and how much he's going to want and everything as well too. But the 49ers wide receiver room right now under contract is Ricky Pearsall, Jordan Watkins, Jacob Cowing, Demarcus Robinson. That's it. Not even Kendrick Bourne. We might be back at the spot where we're like, oh my God, can we get Kendrick Bourne back? Oh, well, here's a good one. A person who is never right, by the way, ever. And, I hate that we share the same name. Jason LaCafora has linked Mike Evans to the San Francisco 49ers. So good news, San Francisco 49ers fans. He's not going to be here. So you don't have to worry about that at all. Like, he's literally never been right about anything, which would make me really sad because Mike Evans has been one of my favorite players. And I think one of the most underrated players in the history of the NFL. And I'll die on that hill. But this room is going to look completely different. I don't know if I want Mike Evans. I don't think he's washed. I don't know if I want Mike Evans at his age. Let's just say we operate in a world where Jason LaCanfora knows what the hell he's talking about and isn't a big Kyle Shanahan hater, who outed himself on Twitter after the Bears game. I don't know if you remember that, Rob, where he just was ripping up Kyle Shanahan for saying oh, you beat up on a terrible Bears. I'm like, show us on the doll where Kyle hurt you, bro. Like what happened? But good news for 49ers fans. If you don't want Mike Evans, then Jason LaCanfora says that the 49ers are interested. That means they are not. And they've never reached out and they are not going to sign him. But I wouldn't be interested in him at his age because he's just a plus Juwan Jennings at this point in his career, in terms of like what he operates with. In terms of his skill set, because he's never been a separator, even when he was at the top of his game. And I think the world of him. I'm not saying that he's bad. I think that he's probably, if he goes anywhere, it'll be the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion. I think that's where he goes.
I did a video on this earlier this week. I'm on the Mike Evans train. Now, he can't be the only thing you do at wide receiver, but they need a goal line receiver, Jay. They don't have one. Juwan Jennings had 9 touchdowns that led the team last year. Yeah. George Kittle's going to be out for some part, you would think, of the beginning of next year. Ricky Pearsall had 0 touchdowns last year. They need a guy in the red zone. Mike Evans is big. They don't have any height at receiver. Evans is big. 9 of his last 14 touchdowns have been from 10 yards or in. He can still be that. And the other part of this, Jay, I like, say what you want about the 49ers, their age on this team. The wide receiver room is incredibly young. Mike Evans is the perfect role model for these wide receivers. Mike Evans was consistent as hell, no matter who the coach was, no matter who the play caller was, no matter who the quarterback was. He played every week. He put up 1,000 yards and like 8 to 10 touchdowns every year. You don't do that without being a professional, without having a routine. I love the idea of the young receivers having Mike Evans, as Unk in the room, as the kids say, to help this team. And I still think he can contribute on the field. I would love a Mike Evans signing. I really would.
Hey, listen, I would be fine with it because I've always pounded the table. Like, there's some people that are out there that don't believe that Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer. When you start doing things that Jerry Rice has never done in the NFL, you're a Hall of Famer. So yeah, I mean, I would love that. It's what he and that's what you were saying, and what I was saying is that like he would fill that Jawan Jennings role right off the bat. And I think he's better than Jawan Jennings. Clearly, I think he's a better separator and everything. He has more cachet, 100%. But unfortunately, Jason Lacafora actually is the one who reported this. So we spent way too much time talking about something that's not going to happen. It would be cool, but I agree. If it was a Mike Evans thing, it would have to be Mike Evans and. Now is that in the
Yes.
draft? Now is that it? Now is that another free agent wide receiver? I don't think it's going to be Alec Pierce. I think I think it was Brian Peacock who made the point that I was trying to make about the contracts. Wide receiver twos get paid like wide receiver ones in the NFL. That's why Christian Kirk was getting so much money. That's why you look up and you're like, why is this guy getting paid? Alec Pierce is going to have such a significant market. And if you believe the 49ers are going to go out there and outbid for him for a vertical threat, when that might not be the strength of Brock Purdy's game either, um, I don't think that he's in the market, right? So Mike Evans and draft pick, Mike Evans and free agent wide receiver, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Brad. He floated out there. Mike Evans and Wan'Dale Robinson and Ricky Pearsall and a draft pick. Okay, that feels a little bit better. You just wonder if those guys can all stay healthy at the same time. But yeah, the 49ers wide receiver room is going to be completely overhauled. And if you go into week one with Ricky Pearsall and Demarcus Robinson as your starters, and you have your draft picks, and none of those other guys are going to play, you're asking for whatever you get in terms of how defenses play you and why you can't push the ball downfield.
I completely agree. That would be a massive failure. And I don't think that they will do that. I really have. They'll do something. There's no way they do nothing at that position. But that's another reason why I like the Mike Evans signing. He's a goal line player. I think he could be a mentor the way that Emmanuel Sanders was a mentor in 2019 for a young receiver room. Hopefully a little better for some of the things I've heard about Emmanuel Sanders during the Super Bowl. But also, if you sign Evans, it gives you more flexibility during the draft, right? You don't have to sit there and be like, oh my God, we need a wide receiver at 27. We got to take a wide receiver because our wide receiver room is so barren right now, right? You could still take a wide receiver if you want to, or if there's, say, perchance an offensive lineman you like at 27, you can take one there and say, you know what, we're willing to wait on a wide receiver because we already have wide receiver at home, so to speak, if you would bring in a Mike Evans or someone like that.
Mike Evans and Joe Samuel. You're welcome, guys. We're still back.
No, God, no.
Yeah. I thought it was funny because Eric DeCosta, who's one of the best interviews, the GM for the Ravens, he's one of the best interviews whenever you're there and you get a chance to talk with him. I always go to his press conferences because he's such an intense guy. Like when you ask him a question, he looks you dead in the eye, and he seems like a guy that is very earnest of what he was talking about. And 49ers fans have been enamored with Tyler Linderbaum, but unfortunately, his comments about what they're doing with Tyler Linderbaum and what they're trying to offer him, you can kiss that one goodbye. So the Creed Humphrey is the highest paid center in the NFL at $17 million a year. Someone, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah that said that he wishes he could quit his job and become Tyler Linderbaum's agent, because everyone is betting that Tyler Linderbaum will come to your offensive line, and no matter the parts around them, will change your offensive line and make them one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. And he says, we're working on a market level deal. If Creed Humphrey's getting 17, Tyler Linderbaum is about to be the highest paid center in the history of the NFL at $20 million a year. Say bye-bye. That's done. You can say bye-bye to that. If they didn't want to pay, what was the young man's name that Chicago signed? Dahlman? If they didn't want to pay Dahlman, if they didn't want to pay Dahlman what the Bears gave him, wave bye-bye to Linderbaum as well, too. And this tweet is up on the screen. Vic Tafer asked Lynch about the offensive line and joked that he hears the outside noise about the 49ers, but the 49ers are pretty happy with 4 of their starters. Left guard will have to be addressed. Spencer Burford, a free agent, and Ben Barch's inability to stay healthy. So I guess we can talk about offensive line because it is so funny the outside opinions of what we have of the offensive line, how bad we believe the offensive line is. When I say we, I don't mean me because I watch way too much football for me to think that the 49ers have a bottom offensive line. They do not. And if you
They
do
do
believe
not.
that, I promise you that you'll feel far better about the 49ers offensive line if you just watch a few other teams play football a few more games. But it's just so funny how like they just believe in what they have, and it doesn't matter what anybody is saying. And oh, why did you sign Colton McKivitz? They love Colton McKivitz. Why is Jake Brendel here? They love Jake Brendel. Trent Williams is obviously Trent Williams. They think they've hit gold with Pooney. I think it's hilarious the opinions from the outside and what the opinions inside the building are. They do not match, and the 49ers don't care what you think.
No, they've looked at it, they examined it, and they, like Lynch said there in that quote, they're happy with 4 of the 5 positions. And I continue to say about the 49ers offensive line, absolutely, it could get better. No question about it. But it's not nearly as bad as people say it is. It's just not. And I see the comments in the chat. Oh, the offensive line got destroyed by Seattle twice. Who didn't Seattle destroy? That would be my question. Okay. Yeah, they did. They were physically dominated. I agree with you. Let me just tell you, there's not 2 guys in this draft that are going to shut down the Seahawks interior pass rush. Like, just not every, like, quarterbacks are going to get pressured. Quarterbacks are going to get sacked. That happens to every quarterback with every offensive line. You could have the best offensive line in the world. Their quarterback is still going to get pressured and sacked. But every time Brock Purdy gets that, people are like, oh my God, this offensive line. Like, no, man. Again, it could be better. Not denying that. But it is not nearly as bad as you say it is. And if the 49ers had receivers that could separate against Seattle, their offensive line would have looked even better.
I'll say this. I don't want fans to feel gaslit. I'm not gaslighting you by saying like, oh, you don't know what you're watching. Listen, if you had that opinion of that player, I think sometimes there's a level of nuance that is lost with offensive line play because of play call, what's supposed to happen. Sometimes the quarterbacks are involved in sacks. I think, like I say it all the time, pass protection is threefold. It's the quarterback, it's the pass protector, it's the receiver. All 3 of those things have to work. But the idea that people are like, well, do you know more? Like, trust your eyes. And if you're not happy, that like, don't let anybody gaslight you, right? Like, it's again like going back to the relationship. Like, hey, you're acting crazy. I don't know why you think that I'm cheating on you. It's because she's went through your phone 3 and 4 times and found text messages from you and another woman. Like, don't let them gaslight you. Like, So, I don't blame 49ers fans. I'm not telling you that you're wrong or anything like that. I would say that it's not nearly as bad as you think it is. That's the way that I'll put it. It's not nearly as bad as you think it is. It's not a bottom 5 unit. It's not even a bottom 10 unit. I think it's just right there in where a lot of teams are, where it's average. And the teams that have the higher end offensive lines, they haven't even won the Super Bowl, right? Like the Patriots offensive line got worked. Hey, Rob, draft Will Campbell, man. Let's offensive line fix. He got his ass whipped every single play, right? Like, will any offensive lineman do in the first round? It's hard, right? And I remember 2 years ago, Kingsley Su'Yamaida. How did not drafting Kingsley Su'Yamaida? Benched. Jalen Moore started. Like it's not as simple as all of that. Should you be looking to improve your offensive line? For sure. Do 49er fans want to see higher investment in offensive line? Sure. I think that's very fair because the 49ers, even in the draft, they bargain bin dive a little bit and they say, we'll wait till the 3rd or 4th round. Not everybody's going to turn into Dominic Pooney, but not every first round pick is a hit. Will Campbell got his ass whipped. He's got to move to guard. A bunch of guys, Roger Rosengarten, he struggled right off the rip. Like, it's not as easy as all that. And just because there's a first round grade on the guy, if it's not one of those top end guys, you're rolling the dice.
You can draft a guy on day 1 so that on the Thursday night and Friday before the 2nd round, you get an A from the draft grades that come out, but it doesn't mean that guy is good. Like if that's all you want, then great. Congratulations. You won that day. But I'll say this, Jay, the 49ers don't do it often, but when they draft offensive linemen, they have success. Mike McGlinchey, love him or hate him, was a starter for a half a decade and then got the bag in free agency, has been a starter for the Broncos. Aaron Banks was a starter for them for his contract and then got the bag from Green Bay and was a starter for them. Colton McKivitz has been a solid starter for the 49ers. They drafted him too. Dominic Pooney, obviously, good starter, was banged up last year, but I think could be a really good player. They don't do it often, but when they actually invest in offensive line in the draft, they're actually pretty good at it. The problem, or the philosophy, though, with the 49ers is if there's a guy that they think that could be pretty good on the offensive line or a guy that they think can score touchdowns, they're going with the guy that scores touchdowns every single time.
I thought it was funny that Colton McKivitz was the highest graded run blocking right tackle in the NFL by PFF. Do I believe that he's the best run blocking right tackle in football? No. But it is just funny because of the outside opinions. And then you see, like, again, like, I will say this. PFF is hilarious because when it lines with your narrative, oh, see, you know, like PFF sees it. When it doesn't, PFF's a bunch of nerds. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's everything is subjective. Everything is a piece of the puzzle. Everything is you know, it's watching, it's understanding what's going on. I just think that was funny because I was going through the top 101 list. Colton McKivitz is on there, and then when I was doing, you know, something for the Vikings and looking at their offensive line situation, Colton McKivitz is the highest graded run blocker, 90.1 or something like that. I don't know if I saw that on film the entire season. I don't know if I saw that.
No, but he's a solid player. Like, he's a for sure solid NFL starter.
Return on investment, starting right tackle in the NFL, and you invested what, a 6th round pick or something like that with him. You know, very, like, starting right tackles. This is how bad the offensive line problem is across the league. You hated Mike McGlinchey. Mike McGlinchey gets the bag from Denver, and Mike McGlinchey is a part of one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in football over there in Denver. And he's part of the reason. So right tackles aren't growing on trees. In fact, offensive linemen get overpaid. Jalen Moore got overpaid. He didn't even play in games because people are so worried about offensive line. There is an epidemic across the NFL, and people will throw the bag at anyone that they believe they can get something from because of how hard it is to find good, starting, reliable offensive linemen at every single position.
Absolutely. And I want to read this comment. Resident Dr. Evil says, just because mediocre to average players leave for a bunch of money to another team doesn't make them really good players either. Would you pay McGlinchey or Banks that money to stay? I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have either.
No.
But my point is, there's no Danny Gray on the offensive line with the 49ers. When they draft them, with the offensive line, they do the one thing that they can't really seem to do anywhere else. They can just find a solid player. The 49ers don't do that in the draft. When they hit home runs. Deebo Samuel in the 2nd round, Fred Warner in the 3rd round, George Kittle in the 5th round. But when they miss, they completely whiff, and the guy can't even be on the roster. They're so bad. Their struggles in the draft mostly have been that they can't draft the middle class of the roster, except for offensive line, where they seem to be able to.
I just think it's funny. You know, I'm glad that you're saying this because there's a few people that are out there that just believe that the 49ers have a bottom 5 offensive line, and that's just not true. Objectively, that's just not true. It's just not true. And if you want to make yourself feel better, maybe this is copium. You know, we got a lot of time. I know everybody who's watching draft prospects. Go watch some other offensive lines, and you'll start to say, man, could be way worse. Mac Jones, Rob, John Lynch reiterates, we're not in the business of getting rid of good players and bop, 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 bop.
Wait, he was asked
up their offers. Yeah, he spoke about Mac, and I think it was with the local media more than anything.
I think it must have been.
But he reiterated the same thing about, like, hey, we'll hold on to him. But basically, what he's saying is up your offers if you want Mac and come get him. You know, the Vikings are definitely going to ask about him because they wanted him last year. And they asked about Daniel Jones and they asked about Darnold. That's how uninspired they were by JJ McCarthy. Again, Kwesi drafted JJ McCarthy, right? I guess with the blessing of Kevin O'Connell, but they were not inspired by what they saw and they were very scared. But Mac Jones, I think, look, no team in the NFL has gotten more out of backup quarterbacks in recent years than the San Francisco 49ers. Full stop. And that's regardless of like how you feel. Like, hey, offensive line would have kept guys healthy, but Jimmy Garoppolo has to step in after Trey Lance breaks his ankle, wins a bunch of games. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, Brock Purdy's in, you get yourself a starter. Brock Purdy goes down, Mac Jones steps in, win a bunch of games. Funny enough, Sam Darnold didn't have to play one snap. Like he played the one game in 2023. He was probably the best one out of all of the guys that were there in the building. I understand the idea of wanting a guy that you can go ahead and step in with, but I agree with what you said, Rob. It's like if the offensive scheme, if the play caller, if the guy that you drafted is the guy that you think he is, you know what? Second round pick for Mac Jones, Curtis Rourke, you're our backup, and we'll find whatever Brandon Allen or somebody like that to be our third quarterback. I think Curtis Rourke is a fine quarterback, and I think that's exactly what Kyle Shanahan likes in a quarterback.
Or if you're not sure about Rourke, sign like a Zach Wilson type guy or a Brissett or just somebody, whatever. Kyle, look at the free agent guys that are out there. Pick one. This is another like Quessy having the GM perspective thing, right? Like, Kyle, just pick from this group. Pick anybody you want. I don't care. I'll trust your word for it. You know what you're doing. We'll sign them. And then you don't have to be so afraid that you have nothing at backup quarterback because you'll have something there. And then we can get something for this asset. It makes no sense to just have, like, think about it. Like if you were in debt and you needed to get out of debt, you can't keep the sports car in the garage with the sheet over it. You got to sell that puppy. And the 49ers are in debt. They need to build this roster. They need to actually do that. And I hope that they do.
Holding on to Matt Jones and then Brock Purdy going through the whole season and then letting him walk for free when there's so many teams that need starting quarterbacks, and this draft is not like I saw Ty Simpson get mocked in the first round. God help you if that's where you are right now at this point. Look, it's Fernando Mendoza, who I think is going to be. I'm not just because I'm a Hoosiers fan. I think he's going to be a Jared Goff level starter, which he was the number one overall pick, and he's going on 10, 12, 13 years. I don't think you can ask for anything more of that. Everybody else is just like, whatever. Like, like a lot of teams, you have to remember, organizations are in the business of winning. The Vikings have egg on their face right now. You let Darnold and you let Daniel Jones walk, and you rolled with McCarthy. And by all odds, against all odds, you started McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Mac Brosmer, who was the worst quarterback in the NFL, and you won 9 games somehow. 9. If you would have won one more game, you would have been in the playoffs. You would have been in the playoffs. If J.J. McCarthy knew how to throw a football, you would have been in the playoffs. I see a bunch of teams that really need to like move the needle here, and the Vikings are in an interesting spot because not only did they let Darnold walk after they won 14 games, Darnold wins 14 more games and then wins a Super Bowl. And you went all in this season. You signed Javon Hargrave. You brought in the guy from Washington, what's his name? Payne. You have Brian Flores, who's a mad scientist. That defense is not the problem. Dallas Turner evolved at the end of the year. Harrison Smith had an incredible year. He might be calling it quits. They might have to go look for him, his replacement. But yeah, people are going to come after Mac. And Minnesota's got to be at the top of the list because they have to reverse the narrative because of how they let this offseason play. If Sam Darnold went over to Seattle and McCarthy played and they still didn't do anything, but if Sam Darnold went over to Seattle and they fell flat on their face and they won 4 games, nobody would have said anything. 14 wins, a Super Bowl, and you let him leave the building. And then Daniel Jones leaves, and he was doing so well before he fractured his tibia and then, tore his Achilles. Yeah, they are in a spot where they're desperate and they're dysfunctional. So they're going to do whatever they can right now. And I think that's it. You wait them out. You know that they're not going to get anybody in the draft that they can go, start. Maybe they look around and they see Kyler Murray as a fit. He's a big Vikings fan. I found that out. I don't know what that has to do with anything other than, that he just used to like the Vikings when he was younger. Tua Tagovailoa is somebody that they're saying that they would like to trade. Obviously he's done in Miami. You mentioned Zach Wilson. Malik Willis is going to get $30 to $35 million, it sounds like. I mean, whoa. We're not doing the Malik Willis slander. I think he's a fine young man, and I think that he's a good player. 30 to $35 million for a starter is not bad. That's how much Sam Darnold's making.
$30 million for Malik Willis? He hasn't done anything. Mac Jones has done way more than Malik Willis has done. Okay. Malik Willis started 2 games for the Packers last year. What are we going out of our mind? Just because he's the best of the bad bunch doesn't mean he's
It
worth
wasn't.
$30 million a year.
It wasn't just last year because remember, Love got hurt the year before and he balled out in those games as well too. Malik Willis looked like a completely different player than he was in Tennessee. And look, if Justin Fields is going to get contract after contract after contract, and he's still under contract with the Jets, Malik Willis is bound to repeat those certain things because people are always going to bet on the player that they see that little glimpse of upside.
I'm not saying he shouldn't get signed by somebody, and sure, give him a shot. But I'm saying, could I have Malik Willis for $30 million or Mac Jones for $5 million and a draft pick? Give me Mac Jones.
Well, I don't think Minnesota's going to pay him $30 million. I think Malik Willis is going to get $30 million from Arizona. Because they're going to move on from Kyler Murray, like no matter what. Kyler Murray seems destined to be a New York Jet.
New York Jet. Yep.
Like that's the next New York Jet starting quarterback. Malik Willis and Jacoby Brissett, they'll be fine with that, rolling with that. And I don't know how you feel about that if you're Arizona, because you look at the other 3 teams and you're just like, hey, we're trying to rebuild and this is what we're throwing at you. And it does. I'm not trying to slight Malik Willis. Trust me, I am a big fan of his, and I think that he's going to be a good player. But the going rate for the quarterback is the going rate for the quarterback at this point. So again, I just think and to your point, the reason you're pushing back on the idea of Malik Willis making that amount of money is how thin everything is out there. So that's why somebody's got to come after Mac Jones and go get him. That's why the 49ers are just posturing right now. And they're just like, hey, whatever, we'll keep him. But, if you want him, you got to come get him. We're not just going to give him away.
We're going to keep Mac Jones at all costs, but we're going to just cut Trent Williams, right? According to Adam Schefter, we're just going to release Trent Williams, even though he's under contract and they could afford him under the cap this year. And they have nobody at left tackle that's even close to being able to be a starter for them. But according to Adam Schefter, they're just going to cut him, right? Give me a break.
Robbie Gould was threatening to not play, and they were just not going to even cut him. He's a kicker, right? So, come on, man. Let's all right. Injury updates. Sounds like Nick Bosa is going to be ready for training camp. Never a doubt, really, when it came to that. Keon White, 6 to 8 weeks off of that ankle with the shooting and everything, but he should be ready for training camp as well too. Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, all goes for training camp. It sounds like. Rob, does that sound like it's overly optimistic? And there's got to be something that's going to go wrong with one of these guys, right?
Did Collins actually have shoulder surgery? Because I didn't see Lynch's comments on this. I know that they were unsure of whether he needed it. Sounds like he must have had it. Otherwise, why would there be any question if he's going to be ready for camp? I would say this. Don't believe anything. What they say now, when these guys are going to come back, we have learned. What the 49ers say about injury timelines, completely disregard. Cross your fingers, hold your breath, and let's see where we are in July.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk was a really good coach, and now, he's going to be unemployed. So, always believe what they're saying. There's never anything that ever has been said that's ever been wrong. Subterfuge is the word of the day, people. You can look that one up for how this works with the 49ers. They're just going to say whatever it is, and, we're never going to get the real story. Rob, it was so good to see you, man. I had a blast doing this, man. We're back in the saddle. Off season's here. Rob, tell them about where they can go get the merch, man. The merch is looking good, man.
Yeah, so we got a brand new merch store. We just came out with it not too long ago. Just search goldstandard.dashery.com. That's where you can go and check out the store. I'll throw it up on the screen. We've been adding new things. Jay's the only host that hasn't told me what he wants yet, so I haven't sent him a new shirt. We got the Levin Black shirt right there, the human wet blanket you could see on the screen. We've got just the
what on earth would my shirt be?
I don't know. Well, that's why I want to think about it with you. We got the standard gold standard shirt. We got the field goals or failures, which is something I always say on the pod. We got shirts. We got mugs. We got hoodies. We got stickers. We got everything you could possibly want. Go and check it out. Again, it's goldstandard.dashery.com. The prices are incredibly low. The margins are way less than the other sites. So I'm not trying to charge you $58 for a t-shirt, none of that. But go and check it out if you want to support the show and get some cool merch.
I got it, Rob. Here it is. It's like me, palm like this, and it says kicker update.
That's true. We could do that. A lot of people
kickers matter.
Bleep it out. They want to bleep it out, Rob's shirt. I was thinking of doing like a silhouette of you and a silhouette of Steph to show off the hair, but I don't know. I'm trying to work it out. But if anybody has ideas for something they want in the merch store, leave it in the comments. And it's super easy to come up with new designs. So if you want it, I can get it together for you. So let us know.
Well, this was a great episode, guys. Shout out to you guys. It's great to see you. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Gold Standard Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts, your audio podcast. Oh, I like that one. Prevent offense. That's about the Eagles, though. That's about Jalen Hurts. Or you could put one with mine where it says Jalen Hurts is a door dasher. I'm fine with that. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. But it's good to tap in with you guys. It's good to see you guys. The off season's here. Free agency starts within a week or so. The March 9th, the legal tampering period. So you can illegally tamper right now on February 24th. You can legally tamper starting March 9th. So things are starting to roll. And then obviously the combines this week, we're going to get to see wide receivers. I'm really excited about that. A lot of wide receivers going to be out there. 49ers, make sure you please draft Omar Cooper Jr. That would be great. More Indiana Hoosiers is what we need. But yeah, we're all the way back, man. It's so good to start really talking about football and seeing how this team is going to shape itself. But it's really good to talk with you guys. Appreciate that as well too. So make sure you follow Rob on Twitter at Stats on Fire. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Jason Aponte 2103. And yeah, man, this is a great episode, Rob. It's good to see you, man.
You too, Jay. Glad you're back in the saddle. Wish you well in your journey to recovery here. But thank you for hopping in.
Yeah, man, no problem. So for Rob, for Jay, we're out of here. Peace.